And I think also it relates to the way our ancient ancestors viewed things. You know, today, if a friendship is predicated upon the exchange of gifts, we kind of view that as rather shallow. Oh, you're just in the friendship for what you can get out of it. But the ancients would have had a very different view on this. You know, friendship wasn't simply somebody who you called up to go have a drink with after work, or somebody, oh, they're my friend, I talk to them once a week on the phone or on Facebook. The friendships were really the glue that held society together.
Yes, absolutely, especially the Celts.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, friendships were bonded by those gifts. So, in order...
Interesting. I hadn't realized that. Kind of like the significance that gifting has in many Native American cultures.
Yes.
It's very important.
Yeah, that, you know, we could go on a completely other different topic about that, the many similarities between many Native American cultures and Celtic. It's remarkable in many ways.
When I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and the Native peoples of the Pacific Northwest had a celebration and ceremony they called potlatch, which at one point the province of British Columbia criminalized. They actually made it illegal to celebrate potlatch. Part of the reason they made it illegal was that the tribes that was throwing the potlatch, it was such an honor to be the tribe that was throwing the potlatch, they would bankrupt themselves. They would give everything away. And of course the cultural misunderstanding was that the government folks thought that was a terrible thing. And the Native folks said, no worries, in 2 or 3 years we'll build back up again. You know, we're not concerned about it. The honor is greater to us of the giveaway and the gift, the meaning of it.
And about what about Vision Quest here in the plains? When you're going on a Vision Quest, at the end of that, do you not have to give gifts to all the people who come to witness that you have done this?
I didn't know that.
I had a friend who'd studied with the Lakota people, and was a sweat lodge leader, purification lodge leader, and the tradition always was to gift the leader of these ceremonies, and again, it was about honor and energy exchange and all those kinds of things. So you started your own group, Silver Branch and Golden Horn, the umbrella organization that Isaac Bonowitz, the ADF, is still alive and thriving, right? And
yes, very much so, and growing.
And it has its own website that we've been showing, as well as your Grove website. I'd like to mention that my understanding is that the other larger order of Druids here in the United States is the Order of the Bards, Ovates, and Druids.
Yes.
And we do have a group of who are a member of the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids up in Fort Collins that we're going to see if we can come down and give a presentation to us as well.
Wonderful people, those.
Great. Yeah. So we can do a compare and contrast, you know. It's like, Tony and his, you know, and their group, and Georgia and their group, they're doing it this way. How are you guys doing it? Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? But again, I suspect we'll find many more agreements than similarities here. There's so many different branches of Wicca. There's so many different branches of neo-paganism. Yeah. And I like the quote you gave us from Isaac a little while ago about how our similarities are far greater than our differences overall.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to start a Grove. It seemed to me that, you know, when we were starting this back in 2009, it kind of seemed like a lot of the organizations that were kind of anchoring the pagan community were kind of, you know, dissolving, and there just didn't seem to be a lot of places where, you know, pagans could coalesce together. And, you know, at the time I was a very happy solitary practitioner, but I've always kind of viewed the 8 high days as, you know, to be a far richer experience if you experience them as a festival. And one of the things that excited me about the ADF is they absolutely require that if you're going to be a grove sponsored and approved by the Ordinary Act Fine, your 8 high day rituals, in fact, most of your events, the biggest majority of them, have to be open to the public.
Wow.
So we wanted to have,
Interesting.
Yeah, and we wanted to have the 8 public high days. Well, partially from my experience, I enjoy solitary practice. I don't really feel the need to be involved in a working group or anything like that, but I wanted to work with a larger group for the high days. And I wanted people that didn't have a coven of their own or, any entree into the pagan community yet to have a place, well, not a physical place, but, an event that they could come to and be welcomed and feel comfortable and feel included. And, people interact with our grove in many different ways. Some people want to get more involved in the planning of things, and some people, they just come to the high days. Some of them just come to an occasional high day. So, it's a very open group, and we're very accepting of other pagans and love working with them.
Do you also do anything for the moon cycles, the full moon or new moon, or is it just the 8 solar festivals?
There has been more of a push as we've grown, that we have a lot of members that want to do more things, excuse me, and would like to do, a full moon or things like that. So far, we haven't really gotten it off the ground. We've kind of just started reaching a critical number of membership to where we can do, bigger and more involved things. I mean, quite frankly, for a couple of years there, is very much our tight core group that was like kind of operating, kind of the entire thing. So it was kind of essentially just too much for a little while.
Yeah.
But, we're starting to get enough of a critical mass of people that, hopefully we'll have more things like that. Hopefully, somebody else can maybe be in charge of that.
You were saying for some of your Sabbaths, your open Sabbaths, you can get 100 people coming to them.
Oh, no. We did a ritual hosted by Juice Cups, an Imbol.
Oh, JUC, the Unitarian Universalist.
Yes. Typically speaking, our numbers are hovering more like around 25 or so. But,
okay. Much more manageable.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to, with ASTAR coming up, and I said, wow, I'd really like to hang out with the Druids, how would I find you?
Oh, well, we always post as many places as we can. Good first place would be our website, denverdruids.org. And just today I put a posting up concerning Ostara on Witchvox. And our Grove scribe, she put all the information up on Kalo Wicca and also Kalo Pagan. So we're pretty much every place.
Kalo Wiccan and Kalo Pagan, for those of you who aren't local, you might like to know that those are 2 large discussion boards, internet-based, in our community, in the Rocky Mountain Front Range community. I could also mention that I believe these guys are going to be doing the main midnight ritual at the Witches' Ball, the Samhain ritual of the Witches' Ball this year.
Awesome.
So,
looking forward to that.
So that'll be interesting as well.
Really cool.
Yeah,
absolutely. That'll be fun. So what's appropriate to wear to one of your rituals?
Oh, great question. Oh, but I did get kind of some wonderful lip syncing from my wife that I need to also mention. You can check us out on Facebook, too.
Oh, wonderful. So is it Colorado? So by the Colorado Druidry or by the Silver Branch?
Silver Branch, Golden Horn, yeah.
Okay, cool.
There was something I wanted to mention, and then, well, it must not have been important. So dress, yes. That's a really excellent question. Well, myself, you may have noticed I'm wearing a blazer and a spiffy shirt this evening.
Look at this. This is fancy.
I know. Look at that.
Oh, and he's got his button. You probably can't see this, but he's got his pretty ADF
and a watch fob, maybe?
Yeah. The modern way. Where's the white robe? Do you have a white robe?
Well, yes, actually. But here's the thing. We don't really require ritual dress. There's a member of the ADF, Kayswer Sereth, who wrote an outstanding book called Deep Ancestors. I would highly recommend it. It's kind of an entire religious practice he's built around Proto-Indo-European practice. These are the people who kind of separated out and became the Celts, the Vedics, the Iranians, and all these things. But he mentions that in Rome, the common ritual dress was the toga, which is the equivalent of the modern-day business suit. So, So, you won't
got to wrap my mind around that one for a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, typically on ritual day, as kind of the head of organization, I'll often wear a sport coat. I try to look fairly spiffy. I do have a really nice white tunic with some beautiful piping that one of my favorite members of our Grove made for me. I do wear that when I'm officiating. But, mostly people just come dressed, nicely but fairly casually. I myself definitely don't wear that business suit because in addition to being the senior Druid of the Grove, I'm also the guy that carries the big box of Grove utensils and washes them and helps sets up the shrine and that kind of stuff. So I try to balance, functionality with dressing nice.
So probably not holy jeans and flip-flops and a torn T-shirt.
No, not generally.
Good.
But, if people do want to come in what ritual wear that is comfortable for them, perfectly.
You don't have an Isaac Bonowitz-style beret?
Even he was a little embarrassed about that in his later years, yes.
In his later years? I thought those guys looked great. Back in the 1980s, I ran into Isaac and some of the ADF people at Pagan Spirit Gathering in Wisconsin. And they had these great white robes and these matching berets, and I thought it looked pretty cool.
Well, one problem that they ran into was, for some reason, at about that same time, the Ku Klux Klan had decided to also adopt white berets.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that
that's
either.
Unfortunate, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
Must have been a very different time. I can't really imagine rednecks running around in berets.
I don't think I've ever seen a picture of that. I always, you always see the
big
that's like the heathens and the Asatru are getting flacked because there are some people who are neo-Nazis who've adopted the Old Norse,
yeah, it's a bloody tragic.
I know. Give us all a bad name.
Well, in addition to practicing Celtic spirituality, I'm pretty well versed in the Norse too, and I will say this: if you can find anything in any of the Eddas, any of the Old Norse writings that mentions race at all, ever, I'll eat a white beret. It just isn't.
Well, that's great.
The Vikings were just interested in their stuff. They didn't really care what color you were. They just kind of wanted to come and pillage your church. They didn't really ask if you were black or white. They just wanted your stuff.
They were equal opportunity pillagers.
Yes, exactly.
Well, there you go then.
Okay. So, unless there's something else any of us wants to ask, we should probably wrap it up for tonight.
All right. So,
why don't you come and bring our guest one of your
snowmen,
yummy melted snowmen, half live.
These are so cute. These are so
Since
cute.
we're not live tonight, these are.
I have two. I can only do one at a time.
These are
upside down. Okay.
Snowmen.